Suspend your disbelief, your rational, analytic mind, just for a minute, just for the length of this podcast. What if all I am about to tell you is the truth? What if the information you will be provided is from a divine source? Just for this time, I am your Axis Mundi. Consider this podcast your channel, your second opinion. When I do a reading, something larger than myself is working through me. So ask what you wish. This is your channel, your doorway to the divine.
Welcome to you to John's Tarot. Welcome to you from wherever you are in the world. Welcome to you from Russia, Canada, Colombia, that was a new one, United Kingdom, Poland, China, Belgium. I know Bangladesh is on there. From the United States, from California, Pennsylvania was very big for me, Delaware, Georgia, New Mexico was a new one, Florida, Mississippi, New Jersey, New York, Virginia. Welcome to you from wherever you may be listening to this podcast. Man, we're just having a little fun. I had a message from one of my viewers that wanted to know where I was last week. There's a little bit of my background there that displays where I was. We were up in the High Sierra, up in the Rock Creek area, and we took a couple of days away, rented a cabin up there, and did some hiking and just relaxed. And it was very nice, very peaceful. But high up in the Sierra like that, there's no internet. You are unplugged. And I guess I needed to unplug a little bit. It was very helpful, very useful, and I hope you enjoyed a little background. I hope you're doing well this week. I am not going to talk about politics this week. Yeah, it's just too big for me. It's too overwhelming. I don't know where to start, and I'm just going to kind of stay away from that for the time being. But I am going to talk about, though, is what is a mystic. I had some perceptions on what is a mystic. Is a mystic somebody who is absconded deep in the mountains, away from all other people, in isolation, deep in meditation? Is a mystic somebody who meditates 5, 6, 10 hours a day, who has a direct communication with God? I had kind of those type of concepts of what is a mystic. So I did a little bit of research, and I thought I would bring that to you and bring it up, and let's take a look at what I came up with. And here's a little bit of the information I got on what is a mystic and who is a mystic. And I think it was really quite interesting. A mystic is generally defined as someone who seeks, pursues, or claims to attain direct personal experience of the divine, ultimate reality, or spiritual truths that go beyond ordinary human understanding. Mystics are found across many religious and spiritual traditions, from Christianity and Islam to Hinduism, Buddhism, Kabbalah, and beyond. The key aspects of a mystic. Direct experience. Mystics often focus on experiencing union with God, the absolute, or some higher spiritual reality, not just believing in it intellectually or following doctrines. In other words, a mystic is someone who wants that direct interaction with the higher power, and doesn't just follow religions, and doesn't just follow doctrines and go to church every Sunday. It's somebody who seeks a deeper union. Mystics also have inner transformation. Their path usually involves inner purification, meditation, contemplation, or prayer aimed at transcending the ego or ordinary consciousness. As a member of a 12-step organization, prayer and meditation is part of my daily practice. And transformation is certainly the goal of that practice. To change from the person I was to the person I am. It seems to be an absolutely an impossible task. Excuse me. So inner transformation is a big part of being a mystic. Symbolic language, because these experiences are beyond ordinary rational explanation. Mystics often describe them using metaphors, poetry, or paradoxes. Certainly, as a part of that organization I'm involved with, it has its own language. You have to surrender to win. There's a paradox that they would commonly use. They would use a metaphor of if you go out and start drinking and using again, that you are out doing some more research, and that you generally come back with after experimenting, you usually come back with arrows in your butt. From the Indians putting arrows in there, and then people usually come back like that with your ass full of arrows. That's a metaphor for having a difficult time. Non-dual insight. Many mystics speak about the dissolution of the boundary between themselves and the divine, a state of oneness. I have experienced that, and many people experience that. Not unusual. Maybe you've been walking in the woods, taking a walk into nature, or out on the ocean, and that sense of self dissolves, and you become one with the environment. When I've been backpacking, many times I've had that experience. I'm not just a person backpacking through the wilderness. I am part of the wilderness. I am part of the experience. And I've had that experience. And then that gives me examples of different traditions. In the Christian tradition, there could be a Christian mystics. And again, St. John of the Cross, St. Teresa of Avila, Meister Eckhart, and I'm thinking of Hildegard, St. Hildegard, who wrote some fabulous music back in the 13th, 14th century. I was going to play it, but I think YouTube would shut it out and say I've stole something, and I don't want to do that. I will leave a link up about Hildegard, so you could follow the link and test out some of her music. It's really fabulous. Islamic traditions, Rumi, El-Ghazal, Rabbi el-Ardaway from a Jewish tradition, Isaac Luna, Basil Shem Tov from the Hindu tradition, Ramakrishna, Mirabi, Ramamikura, and from the Buddhist tradition, Zen masters like Haikuin. Outside formal religion, the term mystic can also refer to someone deeply drawn to spiritual mysteries, intuition, or metaphysical exploration, often exploring things like meditation, altered states of consciousness, or esoteric philosophies. I used to consider myself, and many people like me, and maybe probably many people who are listening to this podcast, as a seeker. And I think, you're seeking truth, you're seeking other religious experiences, you're seeking outside formal religion. You're someone who is deeply drawn to spiritual mysteries, intuition, or metaphysical exploration. Somebody who considers themselves a seeker might actually be considered a mystic. In short, a mystic is someone devoted to seeking direct experience or communion with the ultimate reality or the divine, usually through contemplation, meditation, or other inward practices beyond ordinary intellectual or ritual observance. Many people who experience ayahuasca, who go down to the Amazon area, might be considered a mystic because they're seeking that experience or communion with the ultimate reality. In other words, mystics teach us how to find God, and a great mystic is someone who has been recognized as doing this particularly well. And I can't think of anybody. Maybe the Dalai Lama could be considered a mystic. Maybe the Pope could be considered a great mystic. These people might be considered great mystics. But mystics aren't necessarily people who, like I said, my initial impression was incorrect. I guess I could be considered a mystic because I do I'll strive for to control my ego. I do meditation. I do prayer. I seek to do, and one of my prayers is I seek to do the will of my higher power. that might qualify me as a mystic. And anybody who's involved in any of the 12-step traditions might be considered themselves following a mystic tradition. Actually, when you look at the 12 steps, these are very ancient concepts of looking at yourself and looking at yourself and taking your own honest observation of your own behavior and taking that into consideration and realizing you have a problem, admitting you have a problem, and seeking some kind of transformation in order to resolve that problem. These are all very ancient concepts. I believe Socrates talked about someone who has not examined themselves, someone who's really shortchanged themselves in life. And when you follow these 12-step traditions, you have an opportunity to do that and follow these ancient traditions. Here are some signs that you may be a mystic. You long for a direct experience of the divine or ultimate reality. More than believing doctrines or rituals, you feel drawn to know or experience a source of things directly, whether you call it God, the universe, the one, or simply truth. Okay. 2, you have a strong inner life. You may feel called to solitude, contemplation, meditation, or prayer. Often you're moved by silence, symbols, or profound intuitions that words cannot fully capture. 3, you experience moments of deep unity or oneness. Sometimes in nature, art, or science, you may feel a sudden dissolving of the boundaries between you and everything else. A taste of interconnectedness. I have often felt that feeling of interconnectedness, not only with the universe, with the planet, with my fellow man, with the life experience. I have often felt that. Does that qualify me as a mystic? Have you felt that? You feel an inner transformation is more important than external success. I certainly identify with that idea. Mystics are often more concerned with purifying their hearts or shedding illusions than gaining wealth or fame. I certainly identify that. You wrestle with paradoxes and mysteries. You might intuitively grasp the ultimate truth transcends logic, that God is both near and beyond, that emptiness is fullness, that dying to self is the way to live, that to surrender is the way to success. I deal with the Tao Te Ching. I'm focused, and I find many paradoxes in there that I intuitively grasp as truth. You resonate with mystical writings. When you read Rumi, St. John of the Cross, the Tao Te Ching, or the Upanishads, I can't hardly pronounce that one, do you feel they are pointing to something you already knew inside? Oftentimes with the Tao Te Ching and the I Ching, I'm experiencing eternal truths that I know exist. You have moments of profound love, awe, or surrender. Not just emotion, but a state of being where you feel held by something vast, beyond comprehension. I've been kind of focused on that a little bit lately, like something outside my own life has been helping me, and has been helping me. And I focused a little bit on that on my last podcast, on just the podcast on JohnsTarot. You can find that on any of your podcast apps. And I guess the universe conscious, because something, if I look back at it, has helped me. Something that is beyond me, because I have never been that lucky. But ever since I started on a more spiritual path, my life has definitely improved. Many mystics describe periods of dark nights of the soul where old beliefs collapse and you feel lost. Those periods of transformation from one part of life into another often are described as dark nights of the soul. A deep longing, sometimes painful, for the closeness to the divine. Being misunderstood by others who live only for the material world. Well, that's pretty common with me. Being misunderstood by others who live only for the material world. Sometimes when I describe my thoughts or inner experiences to someone else, I get the strangest look, so I have to really be careful who I talk to. They have no idea what I'm talking about. So how would you know? Most mystics would say, It is not something you decide. It is something that awakens in you, quietly or subtly, and draws you onward, often with both joy and ache. Or as a Sufi poet Hafiz put it, the longing you feel is a return of the message. So are you a mystic? Are you a mystic? And I sometimes think I have a mystic inclinations. I'll put it that way. I guess I am a mystic. And a mystic is not something that is so complex or so outside the normal experience, but it is, it's part of a normal experience. Many people are mystics in their spiritual tradition, where they seek that closer union with their higher power, with God, you may say. There are many Christian mystics, and they're seeking something outside the doctrine, outside of just going to church and singing the hymns. They're seeking that closer union with God, and through prayer and meditation, or through other experiences. People who have experimented with ayahuasca, people who have experimented with psilocybin in a formal ceremonial way, not just oh, I'm going to party, dude. When you do these things in a formal ceremonial way, you can experience another reality. So why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about, ask some questions of the tarot, as I like to do. My ability to read tarot is a gift, an expression of divine love, and I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. So let me go ahead and shuffle the deck. And I just have the usual Rider-Waite deck up here. If you would like to submit some questions or some concepts to talk about on John's Tarot, send me a little email, and we'll go ahead and do that. How does somebody... I'm just going to do a couple of simple 3-card readings. How can somebody follow a simple... how could average people follow a mystic tradition? And though I have my opinion on that, based on what we just read, let's ask the tarot. Now, actually, doing tarot is I'm seeking a different reality, or I'm seeking union with something outside myself, and it is a mystic tradition. People who read tarot or are interested in such things might be considered a mystic. So, how can somebody follow a simple mystic tradition in this society? 3 cards. How can somebody follow a simple mystic tradition in this society? Let's see what we get. That's interesting. First card is the 2 of Cups. Second card is the 3 of Wands. Third card is the Ace of Cups. Let's throw some runes on that and see what we get. For the 2 of Cups, the rune I get is called Pertho. There it is. For the 3 of Wands, the rune is called Tiwaz. And for the Ace of Cups, that's interesting. The 3 of Cups, it's called Wunjo. And I'll do a simple reading, and I won't keep you here too long this week. I'll end after this reading. So for the 2 of Cups, you are seeking, that is somebody who is seeking, you see 2 people with a cup, and then you see the lion overhead and the backgrounds, and that has to do with relationship. So you're seeking relationship with the divine. You're seeking relationship with divinity, and you're seeking that oneness with the higher power, as illustrated by the lion above. And then the rune is Pertho. That has to do with in this case it has to do with, like the phoenix, flying above your current perceptions, your current reality, in order to get a broader look on your life, on the universe, on your relationships, on what's going on in your life, kind of disassociating yourself from what's going on in your world. And like I said, and like the phoenix, you're flying above. And that has to do with that dark night of the soul, where when you do this, some of your old perceptions may fall away and you may experience some depression, you may experience some emotional changes as you take a look at your life. And that is how I interpret that. And then the card, the Three of Wands, you see a man with 3 wands and he's looking off into the distance. So you've made a decision. You made a decision to do some deeper investigation into your life, into your relationship with your higher power, and you're waiting. You made that decision, and now you've taken some action, and you're waiting for some results. And that's what that one has to do with. And then the rune Tiwaz is the warrior's rune. The way of the mystic is actually the way of the warrior. It's the way of the spiritual warrior, and not just the physical warrior, the material warrior. When you follow the path of the mystic, you are a spiritual warrior, and you will face obstacles. And one of the obstacles that you face is the obstacle of waiting, as we see up in the Three of Wands. And you know that the higher power is in charge. You know that the universe is in charge. You know that any types of things that we look at in our lives, that I have control of this, that's an illusion. That control, you think you have control, that is an illusion. Your life can change instantly. And you're putting your faith in that higher power. You're putting your faith in that concept of God, in the universe, in that sense of oneness, that you are part of the universe, and you're putting faith in it, and you wait. And one of the skills of the spiritual warrior is waiting for the will of heaven. And then the Ace of Cups. You see a hand holding a cup, and there's a dove flying into the cup, and the hand is in a cloud, and you see overflowing rivulets, and that has to do with the relationship. And it has to do with you're being offered a spiritual path. You're being offered spiritual gifts, and because of your relationship that you're deepening with your higher power, with your concept of God, with the universe, through prayer and meditation, the offerings you give to that higher power through these practices, and what you do for others too, is a way you can offer sincerity to your higher power, to your God. And it overflows. It overflows with the bounty of the universe and the insight. And then the rune is Wunjo, and that has to do with fruit. A ripening fruit. So you are engaged on the path of the mystic, and you have established a closer rapport with your higher power, you will experience the fruit of that experience, of that relationship in all areas of your life. And that is what I have for today.
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot!
Well, it was certainly my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed my little tarot reading for today. If you would like a personal tarot reading, contact me, and we'll work some things. We'll work out a time. We'll make an appointment. We'll do a time. My schedule is all herky-jerky for this week, but we'll work something out. I have a little program called, I just send you a link, and we do it live, and distance is no obstacle. I wanted to mention that I'm also on Facebook. So if you wanted to drop me a message on Facebook, John's Tarot, one word, I'm out there. You could take a look at me out there. I also post up my my podcast videos up there on Facebook, so you can listen to those there, or you can listen to them on my website, johnstarot.net, or contact me at john@johnstarot.net. So until next week, be careful, be cool, be kind, and remember, have faith, find courage. It'll be all right, baby. I'll talk to you all next week. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.